I think Dutch.
The Dutch?
I think Dutch because Sranantongo is a language that was created during slavery. Because what happened is they brought in slaves from different parts of Africa, right? And some of them were like enemies. And then what they do, like, hey, listen, in Africa, you guys are enemies. So you watch him, and you know we're gonna give you better treatment.
Yeah.
So then they set them up against each other.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand each other. So then they created a language which everybody could understand. So it has a little bit of English, little bit of French, little bit of Portuguese. And so, for example, we would say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So Suriname. Okay, I gotta make a separation because we have a lot of Surinamese fighters living in Holland, and then you got Surinamese fighters who are in Suriname and who like battle between both. But the thing is, Suriname has always had fighters in the kickboxing top. Always. I mean, like somebody in the kickboxing scene with no names like Lucien Carbin, Ernesto Hoos, Remy Boyaski, Tyrone Spong. Tyrone Spong lives in America.
Did he just fight in karate combat?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, he's one of the biggest strikers. I can tell you, that is not him right there.
No, that's what Emiliano told me. Because
Yeah,
Emiliano said it was one of his favorites.
He is
and
one
he said
of-
that was not his typical.
No. I'll tell you, he's been out of the game for a while, and I'm sure if he would have more preparation, it'd be a really different fight.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're live, another episode of Adversity Kings, and I was able to do a little bit of research. I didn't have to do much, but we've got today's special guest, Angelo Simmons, right?
Simpson.
Simpson.
Yeah.
Let's go. So I'm not the best speller.
No,
pronouncer.
SIMSON.
Okay, awesome. So Angelo Simpson.
We're already live?
We're
live.
already
Really?
ready to go.
Yeah, we're
ripping.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and you gotta bear with me because I'm half deaf right now. So my
I
He was there when my ear
checked
Is
just
that what
yeah.
happened? How was that?
So, man, it was a mean hook though. But I can tell you one thing: he's got a jaw. He can take a punch.
He took it.
Yeah,
He took
he
it.
took it. He
Yeah,
just took it.
Yeah, he woke up.
No, I didn't
No,
go
I'm
to
just
sleep.
playing.
So I got put to sleep once, but I wasn't asleep. It was my eyes are open, but I couldn't move.
Yeah.
And I just
Okay.
fell
Stuck
back
Kinda
like
slowly.
paralyzed.
Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
locked up, and it was from I've got this issue, and he could tell you of when I fight, you're supposed to be more like hunched.
Okay.
I'm more
Leans
like
back a
up.
little bit.
So I come up, but I was fighting against my trainer Emiliano, and I stepped to the right. And as I stepped to the right, he came with a head kick, but he perfectly timed it. So he didn't try to kill me. I stepped into it, but when the chin is up and everything like that, it's like perfect timing, and that was a switch.
So when he said it, I knew right away that was following.
Yeah.
It's like running into a
I
park
don't know
car.
what it is, man, with fighting. And I was asking him, I was like, do I keep my frame out too long? Because like that's like my only defense is like a frame. But like after round 2, arm gets a little tired, so I start to come down a little more.
Yeah.
Round 3, arm gets a little tired. Round 4, and I was like, and it really, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because the fighter mindset translates to business, and there is no just like, oh, it sounds good. No, it is business because
It is.
I can look at the money that I've lost in business, and it relates to my fighting style of when I get injured, of I'll get courageous and I'll take a punch, but as soon as I were done fighting, he was like, he wasn't, complimenting my toughness or anything like that. He was just asking why.
Yeah.
What is your mindset? Why? Why be tough?
Right.
What if you could avoid the hits? Like what? Like why are you fighting? I
Work
literally was
smarter,
sitting
not
there,
harder.
bro.
It's so interesting so I'm listening how he's making a reconstruction of the whole thing, and I'm hearing so many things. See, so he says one thing like, I wasn't complimenting the toughness. That's one thing about being a coach, right? So everything you say and do not say will shape the fighter, right? So for example, if I went to him and I was like, man, you're so tough, he would have, we call that an anchor, right? So he would have used that as an anchor, and he would have like, okay, so I gotta keep going this direction. But now I'm like, okay. And I'm not saying that it's bad because you do need the toughness, but I'm like, okay, why?
Right.
And you don't just want to correct someone, you want to know why. See, so when you know why, you will help him find better tools. You don't even have to tell him. So he now starts to think like, hey, why am I actually doing it? Yeah. And he starts finding all the answers. So
Because he already has the skill of being tough.
Yeah.
So
But
it's like
for fighting, like, it's like a common denominator. It's like getting into sales. Like, everyone can talk.
Right.
So it's like everyone's tough. So the separator is the intelligence. It's going from checkers to chess.
Correct.
Because you're just playing checkers if you're not tough and fighting. It's like, oh, if you can't take a hit, it's just checkers. It's, you know, obviously something's going to hit you. One good body shot will put you down. And those are way worse than headshots.
So he asked me about his frame. So the thing about fighting and business is it's really dynamic. Yeah. It's not static. For example, let's say you give somebody a call, right? Hey, you're trying to sell something. I'm just saying.
Right.
And for example, if you wait until next week, you don't know if it's the same situation.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't just be standing like this. I mean, like, if it's so predictable, the situation changes. So you gotta adapt. Like, okay, this is what's happening. Okay, we gotta do this. Like in business, if it's like this year, you don't know if COVID's gonna hit. For example, you don't know what's gonna happen. So things are very dynamic. So it's better if you can read what's happening, what's gonna happen, and be adaptable.
Is that why it's, you know, and I'm elementary to the fighting arena. My dad was a boxer.
Okay.
You know, so we tried that out. You know, the face thing, I said, let me put a helmet on. You know what I'm saying? So I used that.
but I feel like the helmet is even more confusing.
No, I'm talking about playing football. So,
okay.
I was like, fighting probably wasn't my thing. But you know what I'm saying?
Oh, you mean football? Okay.
So,
that's an American expression, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that one.
So, you know, it's like, usually I see when people are fighting, right?
Yeah.
I kind of see the beginning stages of feeling it out.
Yeah.
Like, that's the beginning stages of, like, when you fighting, you're like, that first minute or first round is like nobody really is, well, not to say nobody's touching each other, but they're trying to feel it out.
Yeah.
Like, see what that avenue is that you're trying to, especially if you study
I always
the guy,
say I'm
right?
going to do that, and then I get punched. I'm like, all right, I'm done feeling
Now it's time to fight?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is you need clarity under pressure, right? So for example, if I were to ask you, like, how would you define an expert? What would you say an expert is?
Of how many times you've done something and how good you're at it at the same time?
That's good. And what would you say?
Yeah, I would say a combination of repetition, but knowing why.
Okay, so all of them are correct. And, you know, the expert has a series of solutions lined up already. Like, he already knows, like, okay, so it's moving like this. This is the solution. So he doesn't really have to go and
It's
figure it.
reflexive, like a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
They've got 2 to 3 moves for each position.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, it transitions to this. Okay, we do this and this. So you don't have to go and think, oh, wait, we have to go home and think. See, so why some people lose the fights, they figure it out after the fight when they look at the tapes and everything. But you got to solve the problem instantly.
Yeah.
Right? So I try to train my fighters to, like, figure out who you've got in front of you within 15 to 30 seconds. You got to know who you're dealing with. And, I mean, like, there are fighter types. You got, when you see how somebody stands, you already know, like, okay, he's more of a boxer.
Right.
Yeah, you were saying that if they're light on their feet, maybe they can't take leg kicks.
Right.
Or like my trainer is really heavy.
So all of those things, and you'll see, like, okay, so these are the patterns, and this is how we deal with him. You see, oh, this is his power. This is the angle his shots come at. Oh no, he's very diverse. And from there, you find the solution.
Yes.
You know?
Guys, before we keep going any further, Angelo Simson is a 5-time WKN kickboxing and Muay Thai world champion and the founder of Simpson Gym. And am I saying this right? Paramaribo?
Paramaribo, yeah.
Paramaribo. Where is that?
That's in
Suriname.
South America. Suriname, yeah. That's in South America. It's north of Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're the only Dutch-speaking country in South America.
Wow, so there's a lot of history then, because I'm reading through this and I'm like, it said Dutch, and I was like, why? And then it makes sense in regard to, you know, probably the conquest that happened in history.
Yes.
Dutch went there and kind of were conquering.
Yeah, exactly.
So Man, we could go
Exactly.
forever. So over the past 2 decades, he's trained many of Suriname's top fighters while building an international reputation as a coach and promoter through events like The Chosen. Is that correct?
Wow, this man is a
He's
well-
brought together fighters.
Yeah, he did his research.
Yeah, he's brought together fighters from the U.S., Brazil,
Curacao, that's a Caribbean island.
okay, and Trinidad, French Guinea,
French Guyana.
Guyana, okay, and more. He comes from a fighting lineage. His cousin, is this right? Ryan Simpson is a Muay Thai legend with over 100 wins and 7 world titles. I want to pause right here. These Muay Thai fighters, they like don't respect you unless you've had like 100 plus. So even he has 100 wins. That doesn't mean his total fights is probably 300 plus.
No, I don't think he was not that much, but still,
Including
I mean,
amateur
like the
fights
Thais,
and stuff.
Yeah.
Because so you go to like Thailand, some of these guys will have
those
like
300, 400.
300, 400.
Yeah, it's-
So when my
it's
mom
crazy.
tells me like you're gonna have brain damage, and I'm like, how do these Thai guys do 300, 400 fights? And I might not spar in my life more than 300 times. You know, and I'm like, Mom, this was rare.
Yeah.
but like even then, like I don't have brain. I have a little rupture in my eardrum. So, but let me. I got more. So
Okay.
this is all incredible to me. Angelo believes in more just physical training. He focuses on developing a champion's mindset. And when we're talking after me fighting this past Saturday, I felt as I was leaving the gym, it's like I blew out my eardrum. It is what it is. My ear's ringing. Who cares? You know. That's not what like shocked my world. What shocked my world was I loved fighting, but I didn't know why I loved fighting until I met Angelo, and I'm sitting on the edge of the ring thinking like, you know, this guy's a pro fighter, and I just showed how tough I am.
Yeah.
And he's like, why?
Why?
And I'm like questioning my whole soul because this is my drug.
Yeah.
If I didn't have fighting, I think I would probably do some type of drug.
Yeah.
You know, and I get like a high from it, and I just question.
The great
I question my whole life right, and I'm like driving home, can't hear, and I'm like, shit. You know what this reminds me of? Customato. When they talked about Customato training Mike Tyson, it wasn't just physical. He had to like brainwash Mike Tyson, and I felt like in a good way I was being brainwashed in a more positive direction, opposed to just, hey, go out there and be tough.
So saying that, I got something for you. So this is, let's say my brand. This is the system I created. I call it Fighter Sculpting. So I brought you a shirt.
Love it.
So here you go. This is
Thank you
yours.
so much.
All right. So
The fighter sculpting.
so why I call that fighter sculpting? Like, let's say an artist sees like a big piece of wood, right? He sees the potential in the wood. He sees what it can become, and he starts carving away what's too much. He starts polishing it, and maybe it becomes a beautiful statue or something. So, as a coach, also you want to see like what's the potential of this fighter. For example, some fighters are really stiff; they can never kick high. So there's no use in trying to make him a knockout artist in high kicks. So then you use low kicks and you use other stuff. So you see, okay, what is his potential? And you start, let's say, sculpting him into the man and the fighter he needs to be. And that's why I say the way a fighter thinks is the way he fights. So the minute he does something, as a coach, it can be frustrating, and you start yelling and saying, do this and do that. But the minute you know why he does it, then you can start, how engineering.
Yeah. So it's like trying to make it like the guy who's a B, let's get him to an A.
Yes.
Instead of getting the guy who is a D in something to a C.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? What you do best, what you do good right now, we're gonna work on that.
And make that better.
So
I say we amplify your strengths and we cover up your weaknesses.
gotcha.
Yeah.
That's it.
All I hear when I talk to elite fighters, I just relate it to business immediately. I just think like this is business. This is like it's literally fighting is business. Business is fighting.
I like how you do that. So what connection do you make now?
So for me, the biggest thing is as I was getting my ear checked, and I'm thinking to myself, I've made poor decisions in business with partnering with the wrong people. Not being as wise with the amount of money that I've been able to make at a younger age, and it's come from more of an emotional reaction. I'm tough. I can endure it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'll make the money back.
Yeah.
You know, almost like pride in my scars.
I don't want to cut you off. So I have a friend in Suriname. Their family has been in business a long time.
Yeah.
So he's a private client of mine, and we train. So I train a lot of top CEOs in Suriname as well. And I mean, like the top CEOs in Suriname. And once he wanted to buy something, and he was like, "You see that bottle of water they didn't sell? You see that $5, for example? They'll never make it again." He was like, "No, they're gonna make another $5, but this $5 is gone. They'll never make this one again."
Yeah.
So as you're talking, it's like when you're thinking like, "Yeah, I can endure it. But that money's gone."
Yeah.
Right? And because of bad habits, we take so many hits we don't have to take. Like the ones you were taking. It's not even, if it comes, it comes. We know we're in a fight game. You're going to get some punches. You're in business, you're going to get some punches.
Right.
But you don't have to take it if you don't have to take it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the coachable factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of Angelo's most challenging fights took place in New York, where he fought 3 weight classes above.
Oh, that's my son.
That's your son?
So I have a son, Ian, and that's the way you relate fighting to life. My son, so he was very undisciplined, and I kind of punished him. Like, "Hey, listen, I don't like the way it's going on at school. You need to train every day." He was like, "Every day?" I was like, "Yeah, 2 times a day." So before school, after school. But then he started to get disciplined. And now he started to like the sport. Now he wanted to compete. I was like, "Oh, wait. No competing, no competing." I'm like, "You're going to take too many hits to the head." He was like, "Yeah, but you fought." I was like, "Yeah, I fought, but that doesn't mean you need to go down that route." But then I realized that it's not that he was undisciplined or lazy. He just had lack of direction and purpose. Because to be honest, I wasn't that disciplined until I started competing. So I feel like when you have something, when you have a goal, you have a purpose, then then everything aligns.
Yeah.
So that New York fight was my son. Yeah, he just started fighting.
Now, what about Edgardo
Edgardo El Cuenca
Caladaro from Argentina?
That's Emiliano, his best friend.
Yeah, I know. So the night of the Gladiators event.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring it up to see how did that night go?
So I'm a little bit short, so I always have taller fighters. And this time Edgardo came in, and then they went to pick him up. They made a picture, showed me, "Hey, listen, Edgardo arrived," because I was resting. I had to fight, but my team went to pick him up because at that time we were really promoting big events in Suriname. And then I was like, "Hey, wait, this one's short." Because I didn't even know what he looked like. I'm like, "This one's short." I said, "Okay, I'm going to finish this one with a knee to the head."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay." And I'm going to tell you something about manifestation after this. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to finish this knee to the head." But I was a little bit hasty with it. And Edgardo was a good fighter. It was a really good fight. I threw in a lot of low kicks, but actually I was looking for the knee. So I wanted to start out with a knee, but he was sharp. So every time I tried to throw in the knee, he protected really good. So I distracted him with the low kicks a lot, and then I finished up with the knee.
Will you ever just throw a low kick without setting it up with strikes?
Yes, I do. But low kicks is our specialty. And I'll tell you why. Because when we started out, we didn't have a lot of stuff. So we just had one kick shield. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what we had. So we just practiced that one thing, that low kick.
Yeah.
So we got so good at it that we had a reputation like, "Hey, if you're fighting the guys from Simpson Gym, they have mean low kicks." So everybody was just focused on the low kick. But we know how to put it in so many different ways that if you try to block it like this, we put it like that. We do it like that.
Do you like to chop down? Like Emiliano shows me different variations on, the low kick. Are you a chop down type of guy on the leg?
I'm every kind of low kick kind of guy.
Up, down, side.
Yeah, I put them diagonal up. That is when I just kind of want to, like a jab with a hand. You just throw it and step out. Then I have like horizontal. That's for more damage. And most of the time I use it like that, maybe
To protect against
right,
the
right. So, and I can put it close, I can put it far away, I
Yeah.
can put it jumping. So we got feints.
yeah.
So yeah, so we got
The flying kick is
we
coming.
got we got so many
Yeah.
variations on the loop.
You'd be surprised though. It's sometimes a guy that's done the basics so many times will be more painful
Right.
than the guy with the fancy move.
So to be honest, I told you my son's fighting now,
Yeah.
right? And you know, like right now, the internet is powerful.
Yeah.
So I like to go with it, but the fundamentals are so important. So for me, they like practice the boring stuff every day. Every day, every day, you can do your fancy stuff, but you gotta do the fundamentals, right? Because what I had is, and I saw that it worked. So I have a blueprint now for fighters because we have not only produced several champions. I'll give an example of a champion we trained, Andy Risti. If you Google him, he was a Glory World Champion, and he was the first or the second person to ever beat Giorgio Petrosian. So the people of the kickboxing scene will know that those are like real big names.
Yeah.
And he started with us when he was 20 or something. But we shaped him, and he became world champion. Another one is now reigning champion in Glory and undefeated for a few years already. I think maybe 8 title defenses already, and that's Donovan Wissa. He started when he was 10 years, and like the fundamentals. So we don't make them by accident anymore. We already know what works,
Yeah.
right? So you don't have to, I mean, like we already know, no, this, no, don't go, this is it. Stick to this. When you got this, you can do this too, but this is it. So the fundamentals, I'll say that's real power.
The same is true in business. You know what I mean? There's so many guys that come in and they want to try some new fancy thing, some new shiny, system, technology. But at the end of the day, it's the basics, it's the fundamentals that makes the money.
Right.
You know what I mean? It builds a good legitimate business. I want to talk about the history of. So you're from? Is it Suriname?
Suriname. We say Suriname, but people pronounce
And is it close to Brazil geographically?
It's north of Brazil.
North of Brazil. Yeah. So Brazil's long here, and then you got.
Yes.
What's the history of Suriname?
So Suriname has a rich history. So I'll give you like part of the version the books give us, and I'll give you like a part that the culture says.
Yeah.
We want the culture.
You want the, all right.
I know.
No, good. All right, I'll give you the books first. So, they said Columbus said, hey, the world is round, we need to discover, and they discovered America, right? So they came to South America, and then you had the indigenous. So the indigenous were like the first people in Suriname. And then they enslaved them, but then the books say like the indigenous were a little bit weak, so they were looking for a stronger race. But the culture said that the indigenous were smart because they knew the jungle and the medicines and the spirituality, so they couldn't really keep them captive. So they brought in the Africans with the ships. And then the Africans were enslaved for years. But then you had some Africans, they called the Marons. Those were the runaway slaves. And they escaped from the plantations, and then they met the indigenous, and then they traded knowledge, right? So those indigenous, and the Marons, they stayed in the jungle. That's the story. But then the culture says the slaves, they escaped because of spirituality and resilience and everything. So you have different cultures. In Suriname, all the cultures, they harmoniously blend together, but you have like the African culture or what's left of it, but it's pretty pure. And then they said that those who possess the warrior spirit could escape from the plantations. But what they did, like they were making music at night, right? And at first, the how do you say it? The people who colonized, how do you call them? The slave masters.
Yeah,
the slave masters. Yeah. So they were like, okay, they're having some fun, and then they started like on a bench, and then on some And then they started making music, and then some of them got into the trance. They were captivated by the warrior spirit, and then when they fled, they couldn't be killed by guns or knives. So they escaped. And then they came back to free some slaves. And that's how they kind of put pressure on.
Yeah.
So that's part of that. Then later on came in the Indian people, and then came in the Chinese. So in Suriname, you got so many. You got Arabic people, you got Chinese, you got a lot of people living there together.
But the dominant language is
Dutch.
Dutch.
Dutch. But then we have another language. We call that Sranang Tongo. That's like Sranang is Suriname, and Tongo that's Tong. So it's like a native.
So how many languages do you speak?
I speak 5 languages. But in Suriname, we speak 2.
Okay. So what would be the languages you speak?
I speak Dutch, I speak English, Sranang Tongo, fluently, and then I speak basic Spanish and Portuguese.
Wow.
Yeah.
Come on, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, no.
But, like, it's,
Americans are so privileged.
Now, you speak 5 languages.
yeah.
Did that pass on down to your son?
So
What is your son?
my son, he speaks Sranang Tongo not too good, but he understands it pretty good. He speaks Dutch and English.
Which
right?
one's the hardest to learn?
I think Dutch.
The Dutch?
I think Dutch, because Sranang Tongo is a language that was created during slavery. Because what happened is they brought in slaves from different parts of Africa, right? And some of them were like enemies. And then what they do, like, hey, listen, in Africa, you guys are enemies, so you watch him, and you know we're gonna give you better treatment.
Yeah.
So then they set them up against each other.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand each other. So then they created a language which everybody could understand. So it has a little bit of English, little bit of French, little bit of Portuguese. And so, for example, we would say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. You know?
Yeah.
Um,
That just sounded the
It just,
same.
sounded.
yeah.
It got a little, you know,
yeah.
tang to it, but it's all right.
Is Suriname, is that like Jamaican? You know what I mean?
No, so that's another.
Yeah.
That's a whole other country.
Yeah.
No, I know, but
And
I'm like thinking in regard to the language wise. Like sometimes
they
you can
won't
pick
understand.
English.
No, they won't understand each other. No.
Right, okay.
No.
Now the Dutch language, where does that originate from? What country?
Holland.
Holland.
Yeah.
So they did the Hollanders sail? Is that
From the Netherlands, they
like
sailed-
Vikings basically sailed over?
Yeah, kind of like. So they came to Suriname,
Yeah.
and then they had a lot of sugarcane plantations.
Is that what Suriname's like? Is there a lot of is that your biggest crop?
No, at that time, yes.
Yeah.
Because the ground is very fertile.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what brings the most money to Suriname now?
They recently discovered oil. So that's going to be a big thing in a year or 2, 3. Gold. Suriname has a lot of gold. So you know the stories about El Dorado.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's there?
No, well,
Near.
actually it was in South America, but you know, the
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are
yeah.
looking for gold. So the indigenous told them like, hey, you want to know where the gold is? Come with us to the jungle.
Yeah.
And then
But
kill
then
them.
you had tigers, snakes,
Yeah.
and you had like mosquitoes, they call it malaria.
Yeah,
And,
malaria.
you know,
Malaria, yeah.
So
It's killed more
it's-
human beings than
yeah, right.
anything.
So they told him, you want the gold? Come.
Yeah, come on.
Go. Yeah, let's go to the jungle. So gold is, they got pure gold in Suriname.
Do you live there still?
Yeah.
So are you just visiting?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm visiting. I'm traveling a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm training fighters worldwide,
Yeah.
and I'm traveling, and I like
Is it
traveling.
safe? I know Brazil can be kind of
It's safe.
Yeah.
It's safe. Suriname is safe. I mean, every part has something. But
everywhere. Miami's got
but-
dangerous parts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Suriname is really, really safe. It's
Yeah.
safe. It's
Yeah.
safe. Yeah. There's a lot of ecotourism, mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. If you like good food, culture.
What's your favorite dish from Suriname? That's like that's specific to Suriname. Not that you would go down to Brazil and get it.
Wow. You know what the thing is? Suriname doesn't have like a real Surinamese dish. We try to make some stuff like really Surinamese, but because we got so many cultures, I mean, like, we have something I like. It's a peanut butter soup. I don't know if you guys know it, but I like it.
Sounds fire. I love peanut butter.
Yeah, I really love it.
Yeah.
But you got things like brown beans. They make that like a big thing in Suriname. If you have a party, you don't got brown beans. How come you don't got brown beans?
Yeah.
So that's a thing.
The queso.
Yeah.
You guys have like jerk chicken.
Yeah, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
they got, to be honest, you got everything.
You guys probably eat a lot of fish. You right on the coast?
No, we do have fish, but it's not like we have a fish culture. You know,
Yeah.
like the
I
islands.
got you.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
We got everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got something though, which I'm sure you won't know. We call it pom. That's like made from a root, and they have chicken inside,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's delicious. If you ever come, I'm gonna bring you to it. You'll put on like 5 kilos or something. Yeah.
Wait.
What's the typical religion for Suriname?
Well, so you got all of them.
I know you're gonna have a mixture, but is there like one that's native to Suriname, like a native Suriname?
No.
No.
No, because the thing is, you had the indigenous,
Yeah.
and then they brought in the Africans.
Yeah.
They came in with their culture, and then the slave masters kind of came with, hey, listen. So when they escape like that, they play the music.
Yeah.
They escape. Guns don't kill them. Knives don't kill them. Then they were like, hey, listen, we bring you the Bible, because you're dangerous. So
Yeah,
then
right.
they came with Christianity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and that's how that came in, and then you have Indian people. So that's pretty big there too. You got Arabic people, so you got it all. But the thing is, it's not a deal at all. You know, like how you have in in Suriname, you have a mosque and a synagogue side by side, and everybody's like everybody's uncle and everybody's cousin. It's not like, oh, we don't have that.
Okay.
No,
Wow.
we don't have that. No. So you could even go to Indian, how would you say it, prayer?
Yeah.
Or they would come to a prayer
Yeah.
of yours. It's like just one.
No
one-
beef no beef between the religions.
No. It's actually very, very offensive.
Yeah.
If you would make a remark like that. I mean, like everybody would really disrespect you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
Who's the greatest fighter to come out of Suriname?
Okay, so Suriname, okay, I gotta make a separation, because we have a lot of Surinamese fighters living in Holland, and then you got Surinamese fighters who are in Suriname and who like battle between both. But the thing is, Suriname has always had fighters in the kickboxing top. Always. I mean, like, somebody in the kickboxing scene would know names like Lucien Carbine, Ernesto Hust, Remy Boyaski, Tyrone Spong. Tyrone Spong lives in America.
Did he just fight in karate combat?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, he's one of the biggest strikers. I can tell you, that is not him right there.
No, that's what Emiliano told me. Because
Yeah,
Emiliano
I'll
said
tell
it
you.
was one of his favorites.
He is
and
one
he said
of-
that was not his typical.
No. I'll tell you, he's been out of the game for a while, and I'm sure if he would have more preparation, it'd be a really different fight.
Yeah.
Because he's got everything. He's got kicks, he's got knees, he's got hands, he's got clinching. He's one of the top tier kickboxers
Elbows
of the
too?
world. Yeah, he's got everything.
Yeah.
He's one of the top tier fighters. Yeah, so he's a big one. So all of the names I just mentioned, my cousin Ryan Simpson was a very big name too. He fought in Thailand a lot, fought Ramon Decker. Ramon Decker's a big name too in kickboxing. So those are more from Suriname, Suriname living in Holland. And then again, you had, as I mentioned, Andy Risti, we trained also.
Yeah.
You have Donovan Wissa, who's now champion, and I think.
I know you, when you said you first got into fighting, you just wanted to impress the girls. But was there a
It's true though. It's true.
Was there a fighter that kind of how like a lot of my guys my age grew up thinking Conor McGregor.
So it's a great thing you bring that up. So Ernesto Hust, he was. So imagine this: the time I started kickboxing, there was no internet.
Yeah.
So it's a different age.
Come on.
Okay, and then we had books. So I got some books, and I saw like, hey, this guy's from Suriname. And then he won $100,000 and he stood with that. And at that time, I was like 13 or 14. I was like, wow, if you make $100, you don't have to work your whole life. Little did I know that if you make 100,000, man, man, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
So, but at that time, I was like, wow. And he dropped the guy with a high kick.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want that. So what I did, and this is the story about manifestation I wanted to tell you. And this really helped me develop something else in the fighter sculpting, which I'll explain to you in a little bit. So I let a guy paint that high kick, and I hung that above my bed for 3 months. That is what I saw before I slept. That is what I saw when I woke up. And I played the scenario in my head. 3 months, every time, go to bed, boom.
Yep.
I see myself kicking that high kick. I wake up, boom, that high kick. 3 months. Suddenly, I lost my first 2 fights. And I started to doubt myself. I was like, everybody's telling me you got talent. My coach is like, hey, I see something in you. But I have no idea what they're seeing. And I lost 2 fights. So I was like, you know what? If I lose this 3rd fight, I'm done. This isn't for me. So now the 3rd fight. We got the fight starts. Man, I'm getting licks. Boom, boom, boom. And suddenly, I see that picture in my mind, that high kick, and I just throw it. Boom. The guy drops. End of the fight. And I really wanted to impress my coaches, so I really wanted him to come in the ring and pick me up. And that's exactly what happened. The high kick I wanted, the way the coach came in the ring, he lifted me up. So then I was like, hey, for 3 months, this is the same scenario I played day in, day out. And it really happened. So I use this with my fighters also. I ask them, like, how do you want to win? So they tell me, I set out the plan, and I let them visualize the whole time. And I even let them write it down. We went to Holland once to fight. Everybody won the way we have written it down. Everybody. So that's also something that's very powerful in fighting.
The manifestation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you saying that in regard to losing your first 2 fights, I remember you saying, I think maybe that along, all the other things that you said were powerful, was that a elite fighter can never become truly elite unless he's okay with losing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. So nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to lose, but it's actually a process. You learn. So my son lost his first fight. And I think...
What was that like for you?
Whew. So...
Was it harder on him or you?
I think on me.
Yeah.
But maybe on him too. I don't know. But I'll tell you why it was hard on me. First thing I told you, like, hey, he had to discipline himself. He didn't have to fight. And now he wanted to fight. Yeah. I didn't want him to fight. So we were going to Trinidad on vacation. And he would have a possibility to fight. But the fight got canceled. So we just left that. And we were there. So one of my friends has a gym too. And he said, hey, my son's going to fight. We're going to the weigh-in. Let's go together. And then they were like, hey, there's a fight for your son. Then I was like, okay, the guy had 0 fights, my son had 0 fights, and I knew he'd be able to handle that. So I said, okay, let's do it. And he was like, I want to do it. Then they heard it was my son, so they pulled him out. Then they put someone else in. But now I already told my son, you can't fight. So I told him, hey, I don't know if we should take this fight. We didn't come here to fight. We're not really prepared, because I really, really prepare my fighters. I set everything out. And with the whole manifestation. And so we try not to miss anything. I was like, I never do it like that. He said, I want to fight. He was so angry. I was like, okay. Later on, I heard that guy was the best they had in that division. Later on, after the fight. So he didn't win the fight, but I took that on me, because I was like, he was 16. I was like, what did I do for 16 years? Why didn't I because I never wanted to push him in the sport. He chose for it. Okay, but I was like, maybe if I pushed him more, maybe. So I took that on me, so I took it personal. So now I was like, hey, listen, my little brother said, if we're lucky, Ian, that's his name, my son, Ian's gonna lose the fight. He told me that after the fight. I was like, why'd you say if we're lucky? You know I want to win. Why would you say if we're lucky? He said, that's why I know. If he lost that fight, because you don't want to train him to fight. But if he loses that first fight, I know how you are. You're going to take it personal.
Yeah.
And you're going to start training. So now, he fought 4 fights after that, 2 of them by knockout, and 1 of them was in New York. But that first loss, I told him, like, I never want to feel so unprepared again. So every fight we're having, you're going to give me 110%, and I'm going to give you 200%.
Wow.
Yeah.
But were there moments in the fight where you were like, when you reflect and be like, well, you did this well, and you did that well, especially going against a guy that is the best in the division, where it's like...
When I knew who we were up against, I was like, hey, listen. And the crazy thing is, the first round, he kicked the guy to the head, and the guy stumbled. And he did good, but we liked... So when we fight, I say we fight to dominate.
Right.
We fight to dominate. Don't fight to survive. Fight to dominate. It's a very... So fighting to us in Simpson Gym, and a lot of Surinamese people, like if you ever speak to Tyrone, you will hear some of these components too, but it is a very personal thing when we fight. And it's like, you're going to have to kill us to win.
Yeah.
So,
I was telling him, he was like, would you ever fight? I was like, I think I would need to die first. So I don't know if I should fight, because I just blew out my eardrum in a boxer gym.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, like, if you're fighting, I mean, like, you got to go all in. So we take it very, very, very personal. I mean, like, not like after the fight,
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
but for
but
the ring,
competition, yeah.
very personal. You gotta dominate every area.
Yeah.
So even if my fighters win, but I feel like they could have done better, I don't go cheering. I mean, like, and I try to train them like, I'm not only looking at the win, you know, because then you're only... So we're talking about process goals and like the end result.
Yeah.
If you're only focused on the end result and you miss that, you miss out. So you gotta be able to know what are the processes I need to complete to achieve that. And once you're successful in that, I don't know if it makes sense.
No, yeah, for sure.
Right.
The process of it.
The process of it, right? So if you have those things in place, then eventually you win.
Yeah.
But some people just focus on the win, and if they lose, they don't see what they learn, where they improve. Because sometimes you lose, but you did really good.
Right.
You really improved. So I'm more of learning and improving, but I want to win.
But you want to win.
I want to win real bad.
And when you're having like the difference between the guys, like you said, like that you train over that period of time, what would be the difference between the guys who you've trained that are great and the guys who maybe have been average, you know, pretty good? Like what are some of those things that you pull out when you've trained them?
Nice question. So I see a lot of fighters being successful and with different patterns, right? And one of the things is they're consistent and they work hard, the basic stuff, but there's more to it. I had a fighter who was young, and then I had another fighter who was really good. He was like 16, the other was 12. Okay. And the guy was 16. When he heard there were fights, he ran into I 2 weeks before the fight, I train at home. I was like, no, I book you for fights when you train. So he got mad, he went to another school. Okay, and he started fighting. He beat up some guys because he was good. Yeah. The guy from 12 trained and trained and trained. When he now was 17, they'd have to fight. Okay, but the guy
who left.
Well, so now they had to fight.
Right.
But by the time the guy was 17, he left my gym and he went to Holland to train and whatever. So the guy who left came to me like, hey, listen, I need to fight your boy. He's not with you anymore. Can you train me for the fight? I'm like, it's 2 weeks before the fight. You haven't changed one bit. I told him, like, listen, I'm going to tell you, you're going to lose. I'm not going to train you for 2 reasons. I'm not going to lose you. I'm not going to train you for 2 reasons. 1, you're going to lose. 2, even if it's not with me anymore, he's still my guy. He'll always be my guy.
Right.
And I don't want to stand in the corner, you losing, me knowing you're going to lose, and I don't want to fool you.
Right.
So he said, yeah, but I'm really strong now. I do a lot of strength and conditioning. I told him, yeah, it's going to last 1 round. And after that, it's done. And I think he got knocked out in the first round. He got tired, he got knocked out. So what I do see is just like good coaching, being coachable, and the fighters who, if you tell them like, hey, listen, do these 5 or 10 things, they go and they do it directly, and they keep doing it, those are the ones who succeed. But sometimes they need to grow to it.
Yeah.
Not every fighter is that disciplined and that motivated right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, those are some of the things I think.
Falls in line with just the repetition.
The repetition.
But doing it the right way.
The right quality repetition.
Yeah, quality repetition.
Quality
Like,
repetition.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so for example, when I hold pads for someone, they get like constant feedback.
Yeah.
Hands high.
Yeah.
So one of the fighters I was training with, he was a top 10 UFC fighter, Jairzinho Rosenstruik.
Okay.
So when he was giving an example, he was like, listen, I'm just going to give an example, no corrections, okay? Because sometimes he was like, I'm going to hit him like this. I'm like, what happens to this hand? Why isn't this hand?
Yeah.
It should protect the head. He was like, okay. He was like...
That's Emiliano. He's always
Yeah,
like
so
that.
I'm checking all of the details, like what's up with your feet? Why isn't the hip turning? But just to remind you constantly, because in battle, you don't have time to think. You'll execute what you practice.
Reflex.
Yeah.
That's why
it.
Emiliano is such a great coach, because he like
Yeah.
a poor coach will just take your money or
Yeah.
even just your time and try to make the pads loud and try to
Yeah.
make you feel good. But a good
I
coach,
see a lot of coaches doing that.
yeah, and like a good coach, meticulous. It's like even with the breathing and the position of your neck and then, neck extras and the why. I think there's like great coaches. They'll show you how to punch, how to hit, but there's just elite coaches that connect the how with the why.
Yeah.
And we learned that even, our last business venture, like there, I would give that. I want to try something fun here.
Yeah.
Ano one day moro doro dan Juan Libi.
Ano one day Doro Moro?
Dan Juan Libi.
Ano one day Doro Moro?
Here, let me show you and see. I'm looking up unique sayings, and look at this top one. I love the way, I don't know, is this right? Number 1?
Ano one day Moro Doro?
Does that apply to Suriname?
Well, I don't know this one, but...
Do you know any of those?
I'm
I'm going to go through some of these and see if you recognize any of them.
Okay, well, I don't know none of these, but what I will say, like, see this, what he just picked up, we call it odos.
Okay.
So odos, like the Africans, the way they passed on knowledge were through 2 things. A Jer story, that's like a story, it's a story.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a real story. It just has a message inside.
Kind of like Jesus with parables. Like the Bible is like
Yeah,
parable stories.
Right,
That's how Jesus
right,
taught.
Right. So you have Ajer stories and you have odos. Odos like a saying.
Okay.
For example, what kind of odo are you looking for? What did you?
So I
want to
looked
say?
up. Here are unique Surinamese sayings and proverbs, mostly in Suriname Tango, the local Creole language. This one was wisdom in life, and it said, basically it's supposed to translate to life is, a dead person doesn't suffer more than a living.
Okay, I don't know that one, but when it comes to life, they have something that's very familiar. They say, for example, langa libi, langa shisani. That means long life, you see a lot of things. So the more you when you live long, you'll see a lot of
Kinda
more
like
experience.
Long fighter, you see a lot of things and fighting. You know what I mean?
So for fighting, I would say for you, we would say like sabi diri. That sabi, that's knowledge, and diri is expensive. So sabi diri. So it's like not knowing something can cost you a lot. So I heard you talking about losing hundreds of millions, but sometimes it's just because of that one thing you don't know.
Yeah.
It costs you a lot. So sabi diri. So that knowledge.
Can
your
cost you
ear.
a bunch of
Right.
Like literally, I'm gonna staple my hand.
Yeah.
really
See,
quick.
so the one thing. So for example, for you, because you kind of push forward, but you have a defensive stance.
Yes.
But you push forward. So
Yeah.
it's like you're running this way, but you're attacking that way.
Yeah.
And then when you attack, you gotta stay responsible with your defense.
Yeah.
Right? And for the defense, you have like 3 or 4 things. Your feet are the first line of defense. Because
Yeah.
if you're not there, you can't hit me. If I ain't there, you can't hit me.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one. The other one is you got your hands. You can parry, you can frame. You use that a little bit. So it has its time. Then you got the head movement.
Yeah.
And the last option is the block.
Yeah.
So some people jump into the block right away. Some just don't block. So you got to know like what is fitting for what. Like, I mean, like in business, you cannot use every concept for everything, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta know when to use what.
Yeah.
And that's a really easy fix once you got the knowledge. But sabidiri, if you
If you don't have the knowledge, it can cost you a lot of money.
Cost you a lot of money.
Yeah, I can.
We gotta wrap up. I've got the next guest, but I have to say, the churches beside each other. I read that's super unique. Synagogues beside and peace. I want to talk on that more. But guys, make sure you check out Angelo Simson.
Simpson, yeah.
So make sure you check him out. Another episode with AK with Tristan and Steve. Thank you so much, Angelo.
Thank you for having
Yes, sir.
me.